Hi, welcome to the Sacred Fame podcast. I'm Kasia Rachfall, your host. I'm so excited to be here with you today because I have another juicy topic. And as always, it often comes out of stuff that either I'm dealing with or my clients are dealing with. And it's stuff worth talking about. Big goals. Why are big goals scary? Why do big goals bring up all our stuff and make us doubt who we are, what we want, why we're here? Why do big goals do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. So as always, I have my notes and we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about it from a few different angles, and I want to normalize a few things. And of course, you may disagree with me and you may hear me say something that you're like, well, I've heard someone else say a different thing and I don't know what's the truth. Well, the beautiful part about me having this platform to say the shit I want to say is I get to say things my way. You get to decide whether you agree with me or disagree with me, and you get to make up your own mind. You get to make up your own choices. And that is really how I see life progressing, life evolving, is we take in information, we get to think about it and decide, does that resonate with me or does it not resonate with me? If I agree, why? What does it make me want to do? Or what kind of choices do I want to make as a result? Or if I disagree, okay, then what kind of choices do I want to make as a result of that? So, I'm open to discussion and I'm open to hearing what you think about why big goals can sometimes be scary. I think it also depends on your personality type. Some people are huge visionaries. They love setting big goals and going after them, and they don't experience a degree of fear that other people experience. I tend to be the type of person, and I was just talking to my son about this, who, when I set a big goal, a bunch of resistance comes up for me. And, this is why we're talking about this, because I wonder, what kind of person are you? Every time we choose something, we're on a spectrum. We either go after it with excitement and there's very few walls in our way, or all the walls come up, or a few of the walls, or everything in life is a spectrum. There's never or hardly ever a black and white perspective to something. So setting a big goal, this is how I see it. When you set a big goal, what that does is it puts out into the universe, I want X, Y, Z. If you're very clear about what you want and why you want it, often you will then have the first step or the first couple steps to be able to take yourself in that direction, right? You will know, okay, so I've set this goal. I want X, Y, Z. Here's how I want it to look. Here's how it's going to feel when I have it. You've done all that work. I know that I have to go in this direction. I'm going to take this step first, and then the next step reveals itself. The next step reveals itself. And on we go. We gain momentum. However, sometimes a really big goal, you set one and all your stuff comes up. All this resistance gets activated. So why does that happen? Why is it that when we want something big, we often will experience fear? Yes, there's excitement, and yes, we feel conviction and we feel this gumption. We want to get out there and do the things to get what we want, to serve the world, to help ourselves, to help others. But then all of a sudden, it's like the excitement fizzles and resistance comes up. Why is that? Well, the way I look at that is, and this comes from my studies in neurolinguistic programming, is we activate resistance so that we can clear it. And even if you ask in the Akashic Records, one of the reasons why we're here is to have experiences. I often get asked this question. This is probably the most asked questions that I get when I do Akashic Records reading. What's my purpose? How do I make sure that I'm in line with my purpose, that I'm on track with my purpose? And the records have given that answer, a very similar answer, a million different ways. If you're living life, you're on purpose. If you're living your life, you're on track. If you're learning and living your life, you're on track. Even if you're not learning, you're on track. So there really is no way to screw up our purpose. But often we confuse the two, that if you set a goal and resistance comes up and you're not clear anymore, and perhaps you're even afraid, then that must mean it's not part of your purpose. The two things are not the same. Okay, so let's get back to goals. When you set a goal and fear comes up, or resistance comes up, or something inside you starts to nag at you going, I don't know. I know I wanted it yesterday, but perhaps today I don't know if I do. That stuff is coming up so that you can clear it. And it's often stuff from our past. I dare say it's often stuff from our childhood. Sometimes it's even stuff from past lives or other dimensional experiences. And this is why I love working with the Akashic Records, because we can dive in and look at where does that come from. So you set a goal, you get excited, that excitement can fizzle out, fear might come up and even doubt, and your mind starts telling you stories. Your mind is this brilliant storyteller, this meaning maker that is wanting to make sense of what's happening in your world, what's happening inside you, how all of it fits, make sure you're safe. And so your mind might start telling you these stories of doubt and why you shouldn't do the thing you want. This is perfect. And I want to say this is normal. This happens to everybody. And it's because our unconscious mind has all of our programming from our entire life. And if we want to do something beyond our programming, something that's bigger than something we've ever done before, or something that's bigger than what our family has ever done before, or our caregivers or our friends, something that's just beyond who we are right now, our unconscious mind brings up all this stuff that needs to be cleared or dealt with or worked through before we can have what we want. And that's a good thing. That's why it's amazing. It's awesome. And I know my son will laugh at this because we were just talking about how I have a big goal and I'm doing this wishy-washy thing going, I don't know if I really want it. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to sit around and roach today. But as I'm talking about this, it makes me laugh because it's so good that the fear comes up, and it's so good that the doubt comes up, because then we can do something about it. Think about it. Before you set the goal, even if it was a little goal, but especially before you set a big, bodacious goal, you weren't aware that this stuff was in there. Or maybe you were, but not to the degree that you are now. But now that you've set that goal, now that I've set a goal, all this stuff is coming up. So it's like our unconscious mind is going, here it is. Here's the stuff. And you get to choose what to do with it. And of course, the beautiful thing is you don't have to do it alone. So if you have drama come up, or trauma even, with relationship to a goal, the beautiful thing is there are lots of people who can help us deal with this stuff, whether you hire a coach, a therapist, a consultant, maybe it's enough to talk to a friend or a healer, or do some intuitive work around it, some journaling, working through the resistance that comes up step by step, especially with the help of someone who either is trained or can hold a beautiful, safe, non-judgmental space for you around it. What a gift, because then you get to not only release what's coming up for you, but co-create that goal, not only with the universe, but with this other person, and really sometimes even get more clarity about what you want. And that goal then becomes more crystal clear. Perhaps it becomes bigger, perhaps it becomes smaller, but it gives you a direction to go in, and it gives your body and your mind an opportunity to clear a bunch of stuff that you've been carrying around that is no longer serving you. So that's one thing that can often happen when we set a big goal. And that's why big goals can be scary, is because our stuff comes up. But when it comes up, you're not stuck with it. So the other thing that can come up with respect to a big goal is the little goals that go along with achieving the big goal. And you've probably heard other mindset coaches and well-known influencers, authors, speakers, thought leaders in our world say this: set a big goal and break it down into smaller goals, so that when you wake up every day, you have something to do towards it, to move that needle forward. This can be so tough. And if you have trouble getting up in the morning and knowing what to do towards that goal, perhaps you haven't chunked it down small enough. Or perhaps, again, there's stuff in the way that you need to look at within yourself in order to generate that motivation energy, to generate the energy to move yourself towards it. And not every day you're not going to be able to do that every day, and that's okay. But those smaller goals, the little pebbles, the baby steps along the way, they can also be hard, and you won't feel like doing them every day. So the smaller goals, the first next step, when I work with my clients, it can be overwhelming to, first of all, know what the heck you want, why you want it. But let's say you work through that and you get to the place where you're like, okay, here's my goal. All you need to know is the first next step. Because once you do the first next step, and it's one step only, the next step will reveal itself in whatever way. Whether it's through journaling, working with someone, or simply completing the step before it, the next step will become clear. And you don't need to know all 80,000 steps or 18 steps or however many there are, depending on what the goal is. You only need to know the first next one. So perseverance through the small goals is really important. And perhaps that's the resistance that's coming up for you. Perhaps you're still excited about the big goal. But it's the little details, right? You've got the vision. You can see the whole forest. There it is. You know how it's going to be. You know how you're going to feel when you're through it. But it's the little stuff. Perhaps that's your resistance. So how do you show up for that every day? Do you get scared by the little stuff, by the little goals? Or maybe not scared. Perhaps you just get unmotivated because the little ones seem so unexciting compared to the big one. But the perseverance is so important. The consistency, right? So important. And the continuous persistence, so important. And so often what I've also found, both in my own life, working with clients, setting a big goal, you set it, you deal with all this stuff, it's not only scary sometimes, but it can also get really, really boring. So boring. Because you're then doing all the little stuff every day. You're consistently showing up. And sometimes you have to do really mundane things to put the pieces together that then build at some point the result of the big goal. So if it's not fear coming up for you or resistance, perhaps it's some of these little things that are coming up for you, like lack of motivation or lack of perseverance or not being able to just be consistent with yourself, to keep that commitment to yourself every day. That's okay too, by the way, if that's coming up for you. It doesn't always have to be fear. It can be some other things, but it's all coming up so that you can grow through it. And so I just want to normalize this. Whatever is coming up for you when you set a big goal is okay. And hopefully you can hear me and take that permission and receive it. It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. You're not weird. You're not strange. You're not the only human in the world who is feeling this with respect to a big goal. Now that you feel it, though, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? And so I also want to normalize a few more things. It's okay to want what you want. It's okay to want what you want. Because I've heard this said, and it didn't always make sense to me, but it does now, that what you want also wants you. And if we look at life from the perspective of, source energy, we come into these bodies and we have a life, we have experiences for what? Well, there's many theories, but one of them is to have experiences, right? And to grow and expand the whole of the universe. So the universe has crystallized itself into your body, my body, in order to have an experience, because it also wants to grow. It wants to experience. It wants things. It wants what it wants. And so you and me being part of the universe, it's okay that we want what we want. What we want wants us. if doubt shows up at any point in time when you set a big goal and as you're doing those little things towards it, this is an opportunity. And doubt used to really scare me, but I've practiced seeing doubt as a choice to recommit. Doubt is often given a bad reputation because, especially in our Western culture where we see our purpose, and we've sort of been fed this idea of our purpose being like one thing that we must do. And if we don't do it, then we've wasted time or we've wasted a life or whatever. Purpose, like I said before, is not one thing. And sometimes a healthy dose of doubt really makes sure that we are clear about what we want. Whenever you doubt, ask yourself, am I going to recommit to this again? Am I going to choose this again? Or have I learned something now? Have I discovered something new about myself or about the process or about the goal that I want to tweak? And this point of doubt, this moment of doubt, is my opportunity to now tweak it. Right? So doubt can be such a gift if we choose to see it that way. The other thing I want to normalize is that you will have days where you are on fire, you are hustling, you are feeling amazing, you've got all the energy, you've got all the motivation, it feels like you're on top of the world, and you get a whole bunch of things done, a whole bunch of little steps, you move the needle a whole bunch towards your goal, and it feels amazing. And then the next day or a few days later, you get up and you're like, whoa, I don't want to get out of bed. And then you pick up that flog and you start flogging yourself because you're like, well, 2 days ago, I was feeling amazing. What's wrong with me? Nothing. So let's put that out of our vocabulary. There's nothing wrong with you. It is okay to hustle one day and to hustle less the next day, or to not at all hustle the next day, right? You are not born to be a machine. You are born to be a human being and to be, first of all. So if one day that inspiration is flowing and you want to get a lot accomplished, take advantage of it if it fits. But if one day you don't, it is 100% to give yourself a break, because perhaps you've reached the end of a step and now you need to recharge or rebuild, or the next step just isn't ready to come. So that's something I've bumped up against myself. It's something that my clients will often bump up against, is this idea of, oh my God, I woke up unmotivated. Am I doing something wrong? Perhaps this is a sign that I'm not supposed to do this thing. No, it's not. It's not. If you pay attention to the task at hand, the daily steps, the first next step, you won't miss anything. And I'm going to have my son on the show on one of the episodes. We're scheduling an interview. He's pursuing a big career. He has lots of big goals. And I love chatting with him about some of this stuff because he brings such an interesting perspective. And I was talking to him the other day, asking him, his name is Braden, asking Braden, what do you think? How do you know if you're just banging your head against the wall, against something that you should stop doing? Like, how do you know if you should stop or if you should keep going, if it feels like you're banging your head against the wall? And he said, I don't think you do. He said, I think you just keep doing it until you learn something different. And then you can tweak. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. Like, thank you for confirming how I've seen this, because how many of us have felt like we've been banging our head against the wall sometimes and we've stopped. And then some time goes by and you think, oh, wow, I could have persevered through that. But I took my energy or my lack of motivation or whatever as a sign that I should have quit, where I shouldn't have quit. I should have just taken the time to recharge, or taken the time to get my thoughts together, to ask for help, to recrystallize my commitment. So all that to say, big goals can be scary, and they are. When you want big things, you're going to have to do hard things. And you're going to have to do easy things and everything in between. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. That doesn't mean you can't have your goal, right? You are always on purpose. And absolutely, there are things you can do to get clearer on what your purpose is, how to be on track with your daily activities, right? How to face your doubt, how to face that resistance. There's always things that you can do. You got to be willing to do them. And I think that's the key. In order to move through the fear that can come up when you set a big goal, is you got to be willing and only willing to know and to take care of the first next step. That's it. You don't have to know step 8, step 10, only the first next step. And often when we recommit and we decide, okay, I'm only focusing on this thing, it brings relief. And it brings clarity. And it brings just enough infusion of motivation or of energy to get that thing done. And that's all you need. So let me know how this landed. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. And if you found this discussion valuable or thought-provoking, please subscribe, leave me a review, leave me a comment, and I'll chat with you next time.